Okay, this lesson is just about a way to take the steady bass groove over an E vamp and create more sort of color and depth, and also do a kind of call and response groove between single notes and chords by using this idea of turning one dominant chord, one dominant seventh chord, in this case E7, into the sound of a 2-5, which is, in this case, adding a B minor 7 into the mix, and using the B minor 7 as a way to kind of create a sound of suspension over the E7 and then resolve it. So we're going to look at a couple of different B minor 7 voicings that resolve to E. I'll explain a little more about what I mean by making it into a 2-5. And if you want to download the tab for some of the licks that I'm playing in this lesson, you can go to the link below or the link on screen to sign up for my mailing list. And when you do that, you'll be able to download a PDF with some of these moves. So what's going on is a 2-5 is a thing that you hear a lot about if you ever study jazz or play jazz. And it's the idea that if you're on a dominant chord like this E7 wants to resolve. It wants to resolve to the chord that it is the 5 of. So in the key of A, you have the chord 5 steps up from A or 4 steps down. A, B, C sharp, D, E. So there's E. It's the 5 of A. And so as such, the idea is E7 resolves to A. And so then you can say to yourself, well, okay, if E7 resolves to A because it's the 5, what would the 2 of A be? And the answer is it's B minor 7. And so that means you can then play B minor 7 to E7, and then it will resolve to A. That's what musicians call a 2-5-1. So far, so good. Now, when you're just sitting on an E7 chord or any dominant chord, you can then say, well, I know we're not going to A right now, but if we were, then E7 would be the 5 and B minor 7 would be the 2. There's a relationship between B minor 7 and E7 that's cool. So when we're just sitting and vamping on E7, well, we could keep rocking between B minor 7 and E7, and that would sound good. You don't need to know all that for it to work, but sometimes it's nice to know what the backstory is. But the idea here is we're just going to basically use B minor 7 voicings or fragments of those voicings as a way to kind of suspend the sound of the E7 and then resolve it. So, for example, if you were playing B minor 7 like this, with the root, flat 7, root, flat third, flat 7, flat third, and that 4th or the 11th on top, you can see that this little fragment of it looks almost like an E, well, it does look exactly like an E7 sus4. So this sound basically of this note, the flat 7 of the B minor chord resolving to the 3rd of E7 is the cool thing that happens. And so we can take bits of that and make these voicings. And so if we're keeping the steady bass going, now, even though we're playing a steady bass and playing basically the blues, we get this slightly more sophisticated or colorful way of doing things that's not necessarily just, which is awesome also, but now we have something we can play off of with that. So we can have blues licks. And if we can do that there, then we can look for other places up the neck to do it. And so we can go here, for instance, and that's basically the same thing. Here we've got the flat 7 of B7 resolving to the 3rd of E, and we've got this note on top. This is a D. It's the flat 3rd of the B flat of the B minor 7 chord. It's the 7th of E. So we can have that sound and the open high string, or we can take a chord like this. Right? My friends and I used to call this the red house chord when we were learning to play guitar. I guess that actually would be up here because red house is an A, but you get the idea. So here's the 3rd of E, raise it up a 1 fret, and now we've got the top part of a B minor 7 chord here. So or we could take the top part of B minor 7 like this, and we could play actually just, this is just B minor because it's just got the flat third, the fifth, and the root. And this is not really the same degree of resolution we had with some of the other voicings, but we can just take this and we can then drop the F sharp to E on the second string. Or we could think of this as B minor 9 and then to E7, or B minor 9 to E9. If we had more fingers or we wanted to reach over, we would have this, which is a little more complete, but tend to grab just the top 3 strings a lot of the time. And if you go from here, our supposed E9 chord down to like a E7 here, then you kind of get the effect of the resolution from B minor over to E7. And then finally, I was talking about this last week in one of the lessons I was doing in the membership that I run, and I was talking about, sort of mentioned in passing, I think of this as the Joe Pass move, because that's the first place that I heard it, was on a Joe Pass record. The full chord version of it would be B minor 11 down to B minor 9, but you could go straight from the B minor 11 chord here down to E9, or just the top 3 notes, or 2 passes through a B chord and then resolve to E. Or you could go through 3 voicings of B minor, all suspended over the E bass. So here's, keep playing that wrong. There's the 5th, 7th, and 11th of B minor. Here's the flat 3rd, 5th, and 9th. And here's the root, flat 3rd, and flat 7. So, and then I guess to be complete, we could play, what would we play? That, maybe the flat 7, the root, and the 5th of B minor. So there's a whole bunch of possibilities. So you could take it through a longer pass of all that. So So there's a bunch of possibilities. So try some of that out. And again, the idea is just looking at ways to play B minor 7 to E7 as a kind of suspension resolution so that you can have a chord thing to do and then a way to put licks in between that are basically just blues licks. So again, if you want to download a PDF with some of those licks, click on the link below or the link on screen to sign up and download that stuff. And I'll see you next time.